Hello everyone and welcome to 1v1 with Boss Rush Games. I'm your host, Celeste Roberts. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing Corey Dirrig, co-founder of Boss Rush Games and host of Arsenal X, the Xbox podcast, host of Tower Casuals, a Destiny podcast, and host of the Boss Rush Games podcast. That is a last-minute addition.
It's true. Hello, Celeste. Thank you for inviting me on your show. I really appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's technically your show. You started these way before I was even a twinkle in the Boss Rush Games' eyes.
I mean, that's fair. Yeah, this was like the 1v1 thing. Like, it was just like an idea Ed and I had. Like, we should interview people. That might be a fun thing to add into this mix of things we don't know what we're doing like a year ago. Oh my gosh. I can't. Look, we were talking before the show, and like I was showing you some of the ideas that we have, which will probably be live by the time you hear this. Happy New Year, everybody, by the way. Hope everybody has a safe and happy New Year and Merry Christmas and Hanukkah and all that stuff. But I was showing you, and you were like, man, look how many people are involved. I'm like, there's a lot of people involved. And like a year ago, Ed, Jesse, and I were like sitting here trying to figure out what we wanted to do. It wasn't even called Boss Rush Games yet. It was just we still wanted to podcast together because we'll get into it in the meat of the show. But like the group we were previously a part of, like we're no longer part of that group, and we still wanted to podcast together. And we were like, what do we do? And then like here we are a year later, and it's like, wow, look what we've accomplished in a year, you know? So it's crazy.
Well, congratulations, because I know that you put a lot of hard work into this.
It's some work. It's no, we all do. I mean, everybody does something here, you know? I mean, it's there's a lot of people here. There's a lot of people that do great things here, and I love it. It's funny because we actually did this like it's behind the scenes, everybody. Not everything's perfect here. The first time we did this, I lost the video and the audio file. So this is the second time Celeste and I are doing this. But like, I'm glad that happened in a weird way, because I'm in such a better, clearer mind space of what we kind of want Boss Rush to be in 2021 and beyond, you know, and what I want to accomplish personally, what I want to accomplish as a group, how we want to help other people facilitate their personal goals and their personal projects through Boss Rush. And it's exciting, you know? Yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into it. And I'm not going to lie, sometimes I'm a little overwhelmed, but like seeing people come to us and say, hey, we did this because of you, or like Boss Rush helped us, or we want to do things with you, is like, it's the most kind of rewarding thing, you know? And it's such a different mindset that I have doing this than what I was doing before Boss Rush existed.
Don't sell yourself short, sir. I joined up with you guys in June of this year, which feels like not that long ago, but it also feels like a decade ago.
I know. I know. It's like June was so long ago. I feel like it's been 4 years since the summer. It's just
And I remember I was asking, oh gosh, do I need to do all this formal stuff? And do I need to have a calendar? Do I need to have, I don't know, a pen pad?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I just have notes. I have like 5 notepads on my phone that have the same notes on them. And I'm just like, I don't know where this note is, so I need to make a new note so I can add this note to the other notes later. And it's so disorganized. It's a disorganized mess. I'm not going to lie, but it's a fun, disorganized mess. And by the way, when you came on in June, it's mostly Megan's fault, I think.
She messaged me.
Yeah, it's her fault. It's Ed's fault. It's everybody's fault that you're here. And look, the stuff that you've been doing with, and I'm not saying that as like a bad thing. It's a great thing. The things that you've been doing since you came here, like helping with Nintendo Power Block for a while, and like doing the 1v1 and expansion pack conglomerate of shows with Band and Talk the Walk and some of these other things that are happening, is like when we were started talking about an expansion pack idea, this is not what I thought it would be, but it's so much better than what I thought it was going to be, that it's crazy how I look at the numbers, because like I look at the numbers on everything probably 2 or 3 times a week, how popular the interviews are, even with people that are kind of like lesser known. I think people just like learning about people, even if they're not, quote unquote popular or the biggest thing on the planet, or the walking sim stuff. Holy crap, there's an audience for that.
Are you just saying that to make me feel better?
No, our walking, like the Talk the Walk episodes are like some of the highest downloaded episodes across anything.
That was Ed's idea.
I know. Ed. You have to give credit to Ed again. That guy. Over there recording Nintendo POW Block with his friends.
That's another thing. Corey, you had asked if I wanted to be on POW Block every week. And so I was doing that for several months. And then, like you were saying, with all these other shows, and then I'm also with Another Zelda podcast, which is a separate entity. It was overwhelming, and I actually had a conversation with you one-on-one and said, oh my gosh, Corey, I'm not playing as many games as I probably should be for being on a Nintendo show.
That's fair. And that honestly, that's why, look, the big thing too is like, there's a lot of people that work with us here, right? Whether it's, just kind of joining in on a podcast or doing as much as I guess, we are doing, I don't want people that work with us to feel obligated to do things that they don't want to do. Right. And I never wanted you to feel like that. And like, when you came to me, I'm like, yeah, we'll figure it out. Dan and David have been great co-hosts on that show. The introduction of Galatrad coming over, Jacob Taylor, is like, he's going to start kind of filling in that fourth chair a little bit a couple times. I'm still going to be there a couple times. It's like, there's enough people here to where you don't have to feel overwhelmed doing that. And like, I didn't want you to feel that way. And if I made you feel that way, you wouldn't want to do this anymore. And like, you know what I mean? Like, you're such a valuable part of this team, and what 1v1 is and everything else is like, I don't want to lose that aspect. So like, I just want everybody to feel comfortable with what they're doing. If they're not, say something, and we'll figure it out. There's enough people here. There's enough things going on. We can change some things up, and that's why I gave Ed the hosting job in the first place. Cause like you, I wasn't playing enough games. I haven't, if I was 100% honest, I haven't touched my Switch in months, unless my nephews are over to play some stuff. Like, that's just not where the games I want to play are right now. And I felt like, even though I had hosted that show for 200 and something episodes, like, I felt like I wasn't doing the show justice by hosting it if I wasn't playing my Nintendo stuff, And that's why we had Ed take over. And it's funny because people were writing in, it's like, it's actually hilarious Ed hasn't been hosting this show since it started, because it's Ed and he's like Mr. Nintendo, and it's worked out great.
I love that you encourage people to follow their passions and not to feel bad, because a little behind the curtains here, most of us are working adults. I would wager each person who contributes.
No, that's not true. Nobody has real jobs.
Oh, wow. I wish that money just fell from the sky for me.
Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be awesome?
It hasn't happened yet. It's not like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Cloudy with a Chance of Money.
Right.
But I want to talk about you, Corey. I want to learn more about you, and I want other people to learn more about you.
Okay. I guess people want to know about me. Hi, I'm Corey. How are you? I'm here. I'm no. Yeah, I'm
going to talk about everything. This is going to be like a Freudian session. You're going to be like, it all started in my childhood. No, I'm just picking.
It did start in my childhood. It did.
Well, I think you could connect it with the first topic. We want to talk about the earliest memories of video games that you have, because video games are probably the core of this podcast network.
Yeah, I would say they are. Although I do like the idea of expanding into other things, but like, I mean, Boss Rush Games exists because of video games, and I wouldn't be here without them. So, yeah, the earliest memory of video games, my dad brought home an Atari 2600, and he brought home a bunch of games like Kaboom and E.T., which was, the worst game ever made, and Combat and all these Pac-Man, like, just the whatever you could think of, Donkey Kong, on the Atari, and like I just remember when I was like I think it's literally my first memory is like sitting, it's probably not politically correct anymore, but like Indian style on the floor is what, like cross-legged on the floor with my dad playing Atari, playing Kaboom, which is all it is like you control this little basket at the bottom of a building and there's a burglar on top throwing bombs off the top of the building, and you have to try to catch the bombs, and if you don't catch them, you lose, right? Like that's the whole point of the game. But that's like the earliest video game memory that I have, and it's still something I think about often. I know I've told that story on some show probably 2 or 3, 4 or 5 times, but like as much as my dad does not even care about video games at all, like he's the one that got me into this. This is his fault. See, Dad, it's your fault. This is why I'm here. This is what I'm doing. It's your fault. But then I remember going over to my grandma's house and playing NES with my cousin. We would play like Double Dragon and Ninja Turtles and Mario and stuff like that. Probably the first thing I ever really owned myself was a Game Boy. And my grandma got it for me when I was 3-ish years old. Came with Tetris and boxing, and then I got Ninja Turtles for it, and I still have it. I still have all 3 of those games, still have my original Game Boy downstairs in the box, and it's something I will never get rid of. It's like one of those treasured possessions, and it's hard to believe that thing is 30 years old now.
Thanks for that.
You're welcome. I'm older than you. What are you talking about?
Not by that much.
And, just from there, it just grew into this passion that I have for games. Like, it's not like I don't get to play as many games as I would like to anymore, right? Because, like you said, we're adults with jobs and responsibilities. And, I have a kid now and one on the way. And it's tough to get that time in, especially doing all this too. But, like, Boss Rush games wouldn't exist if, my dad wouldn't have brought home that Atari for me that day, and we don't have that Atari anymore, sadly, but it's something I'll never forget, honestly. Is
it the Atari that someone's trying to make like how they do with the mini NES and mini Super Nintendo? Someone's trying to do that with the Atari.
Yeah, it's like this weird hybrid of like those classic mini Nintendo systems mixed with like a newer modern console type thing, and if you read up on it, the story about that is a dumpster fire. The company that's making these stopped paying the architects of the infrastructure like 6 months like after they started making it, and then they were unpaid for like 6 months, and then they quit working on it, and it's been delayed quite a few times. It's the whole story of Atari, and the way like the brand Atari is different from the development / publisher side of Atari. So there's actually like 3 different Ataris. It's wild. You should go read up on just the dumpster fire that is Atari. Okay, it's hilariously fascinating.
Oh my gosh. Wait, is it E.T.? E.T. was the game on it. Was that the game?
E.T. Yeah. That game was made in something like a normal Atari game was made somewhere between 8 months and a year. And they wanted E.T. out in 6 weeks. And the guy made the game in 6 weeks, and they put it out.
Can you imagine working on something like that in 6 weeks?
Which is hilarious, because like even though E.T. is the worst game ever made, the guy that made that game made a game called Yar's Revenge, which is considered one of the best Atari games ever made. It's like one of the greatest Atari games ever made. So like, yeah, and then like after E.T. came out, he like quit making games for a long time. So
I've heard that it's not the best video game in the world.
Yeah, it's like I don't really remember it all that much. I just remember the only thing I remember about E.T. is basically what people show on TV is like E.T. falls in a pit, he can't get out, and then you have to reset the game because you can't get out of the pit because there's no way to get out of the pit. I don't really remember it at all. So look, I was 3 when I was playing Atari. Okay, I just remember moving the joystick left and right trying to catch little balls in a basket. It's so
fast forward to today, and what would you say are your favorite games and favorite systems?
Oh, geez. Gotta put that on me, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would say, like, my love of games began when my dad brought home that Atari, and then when my grandma got me the Game Boy, and then I had a Sega Genesis also. I would say the passion I have for games now probably started when I got my Nintendo 64 for Christmas, also from my grandma. So my grandma would usually come over for Christmas Eve, and she would spend the night with us so she could be there to open gifts with us and kind of make breakfasts and, that kind of thing when we were little. That year, the year the Nintendo 64 came out, I didn't know if I wanted a Nintendo 64 or like a Super Nintendo, because the Super Nintendo was super cheap and there was all these great games that I never played because I didn't own one. And like, little 10-year-old me was like fighting with myself. Oh, I want the Nintendo 64 because it's got great graphics and it's new. Oh, but the Super Nintendo has Ninja Turtles on it and all these awesome games. Ninja Turtles was a very big swaying point for a lot of my decisions in life. I just throw that out there. But that Christmas, we opened my gifts, and like I got Super Mario 64 for Christmas. And I was like, great. What am I supposed to do with this? And my grandma usually spends the night. Didn't spend the night that year. So I was like, what am I supposed to do with this? Am I supposed to read the box? Am I supposed to read the manual? Should I blow in it? Like I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. So like I kind of thought it was going to be like a big surprise gift, and I wasn't supposed to open that part of it yet. So Christmas is over. My grandma shows up. She brings in the gifts, and like we open the gifts, and I was like, okay, and not to sound like a bratty kid, but I probably was. I was 10. We ate breakfast and stuff. No Nintendo 64. I was like, okay, well, either I'm getting one and they couldn't find one, or this was just a massive mistake and I don't know what to do with this. After breakfast and stuff, my grandma said, hey, there's more bags in my trunk. Can you go bring them in? And I said, sure. So I brought in the bags, and my grandma said, this one's for you. And I was like, it was a big bag. It was a big bag. And she was like, open it. And it was a Nintendo 64. And I was like freaking out. It was like the best Christmas of my life. It's seriously still like nothing ever topped that Christmas. The Nintendo 64 era, to get back to the question, is probably when my passion for games really started. I started paying attention to games more. I started reading magazines. I started going to stores and like trying to figure out how much games cost and what I needed to do to get them, that type of thing. So I guess that's kind of where my passion for games started. So the Nintendo 64 will always hold a special place in my heart. Xbox 360 probably is one, because that's when, like, I don't know, I started getting into like Gears of War. Has always been a big favorite game of mine. Like that whole series is one of my favorites. And I don't know, the current consoles that are out now are like, I just feel like they just keep iterating and making things better. I don't really know if I can say I have like a favorite, but if we're going to like classic stuff, like stuff I grew up on, Nintendo 64 and GameCube are easy ones. Probably the Dreamcast somewhere in there. That era of games is just like prime Corey's a big dork moment,
Oh, so let's fast forward to 2020. What are you focusing on now?
Oh, geez, what am I focusing on now? I mean, the Xbox stuff is kind of where I'm pretty focused now. I mean, mostly because, hosting an Xbox podcast, that's where my focus needs to be for this. Pal Block was my show for a long time. It was mine and Ed's show for a long time. The Xbox stuff, Destiny kind of in particular, I guess, since I do a Destiny podcast as well. I don't know. I've been trying to like explore more games mostly because like there's a lot of games I need to catch up on. There's Game Pass, which has a lot of interesting things on it. I don't know. I'm really trying to like get away from what I'm comfortable with, I guess you would say, in terms of games. Like right now, when this is being recorded, Cyberpunk is kind of like the hot topic right now, whether you are having a lot of issues with it, whether you're enjoying it, whether it's Game of the Year, whatever. We had a side conversation about this. Like, I had zero interest in getting this game. Like it's too big of a game. Not really into first person RPG style games like that. Like I don't really care about Fallout. Don't really care about Elder Scrolls games like that. But I had a side conversation with LaRon and Josh about it, and I was like, you know what? I'll download it. I'll play it. We'll just give it a try. And like, I'm really glad I did, because it's probably my game of the year, regardless of like people having issues with it, people getting refunds, people having bugs. Like, I haven't had really any issues with it yet, and it's probably my game of the year. And it's a game that I probably wouldn't have even played based on like the checkboxes, you know?
It looks really cool.
It is cool. I mean, there's some things that are like, okay, this is definitely a video game. The world is really well realized, and the characters are really well written, and I'm super immersed in this world and these characters, and I just want to keep playing, you know? I haven't really felt like this since probably Breath of the Wild, where it's like, it's all I can think about. I want to go play this game right now, you know? And like, sometimes I go into play games, and there's sometimes I play games and I'm like, man, this isn't really grabbing me. But then there'll be like that one game that's like, oh man, this just ignited something in me that's like, you know, Breath of the Wild was that game for a long time, you know? And then nothing after that really felt like, oh man, you know, I need to keep playing this. That's all I can think about. I still think about Breath of the Wild like daily, which, you know.
Really?
Yeah, daily. Really do.
Wow, like just what you saw in the game, some theories, what's on your mind?
No, just like I want to replay that game. I really liked the exploration, the world. I'm a big Zelda fan. Like I love Zelda, so like I mean that obviously has a huge kind of influence on that, but like I just like the Zelda world that they created. I love this version of Zelda. I love this version of Link. I love the champions. I love how you can literally go anywhere and explore anything, and the game rewards you for exploring. You know, like you can go to this tall peak and there's a tree up there, and like you could shoot the 3 apples off the tree and you'll get a Korok seed or something. You know, it's like the game just it seems like the world is just kind of like a random world, but everything is put in place for a purpose, and that sense of discovery in the shrine puzzles, and you know I mean, I don't think Breath of the Wild is a perfect game by any stretch, right? Like there's some things that kind of bother me about the game, but like overall that was just such an experience that I had. And maybe it was just because I played it on Switch. It was a new console. That was the game that came with my new console. But like, I still constantly think about that game. And like now that Hyrule Warriors is out and I've kind of been dabbling in that, it's like, maybe it's time to go back and replay Breath of the Wild. I don't know. It's weird. I just like, I think about that world and those characters constantly, and like, what's the sequel going to be? And like, I haven't felt that way about a game in a really long time.
It's a beautiful game. I just, leaving the plateau for the first time, I think my jaw almost hit the floor. Just, oh my gosh, I have this whole land to explore.
Right.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and you know, like, I mean, like I said, I have some issues with the game. Like, I don't really care about the degradable weapons. Like, if there's some crafting system in there to make them more powerful or more sturdy or something, I think that would lessen the blow. But like, I don't care about the breakable weapons thing. I think the 4 main dungeons are kind of subpar, honestly. The real meat of the game is like the shrines and the exploration, and that's what makes that game so special. So I don't know. I think about those characters a lot, and just like, it really felt like the first time Nintendo kind of took a Zelda story seriously a little bit. I mean, Twilight Princess was kind of that too, but a lot of people have too many issues with Twilight Princess, which I don't really know why, but you know, I just really love that game.
Oh, it's so good. I'm replaying it, the Wii U version.
Yeah, how's that Wii U?
I do. Yeah, I like it. It's I played it on GameCube when I first played Twilight Princess, and it's been a long time since I've played it, and it's such a dark Zelda, and I love it.
I know, that's why I like about it. It's so dark, and like the tragedy of Midna, right? And like just watching that whole story unfold, and seeing kind of Zant, and like how just I just Twilight Princess is my favorite Zelda game. I would still say, for nostalgic reasons, it's Twilight Princess. I think Breath of the Wild is still probably my favorite Zelda game, but like I have a lot of nostalgia for Twilight Princess. It also was the game I played through a lot of like kind of rough patches kind of growing up. So it was well, not growing up, but like there's a time in my life where like that game really got me through some stuff, and maybe that's why. So but yeah, I love the darkness of Twilight Princess. I really hope that that's kind of where they're going with the sequel to Breath of the Wild, because it kind of, the green hands and just kind of like the green swirls and stuff is like, oh man, Twilight Princess.
Bring us another Twilight Princess Majora's Mask type game.
Right. Yeah.
Do you like Majora's Mask?
I do. I really do like Majora's Mask. My love for that game hasn't, like the game I feel like hasn't aged as well as I would have liked it to. Like the 3DS version, they fixed a lot of things. It's definitely the superior version, but like I feel like there's a lot of games that are like time and place games where like if you didn't play them then, like, and you go back to them now to play them, I don't feel like Majora's Mask would hold up as well as if you played it then. But like it's still one of my favorite Zeldas because of that. It's actually the first Zelda game I ever beat was Majora's Mask.
Really?
Yeah, like for the Game Boy I had Link's Awakening for the Game Boy, but I was really young when I got it, and I didn't really understand what Zelda was. Like I didn't even know there were dungeons. I would just run around on the beach and just kill guys with the sword. And I never had a Super Nintendo, so I never played A Link to the Past. I actually just played A Link to the Past for the first time with Ed a year and a half ago.
What'd you think about that one?
It's a wonderful game. Like I always knew I would like it, but it just like it's just one of those things. Like Super Nintendo was that most of the games that I missed growing up are on Super Nintendo. Super Metroid, Yoshi's Island, like any of the big Super Nintendo games you would mention, I probably haven't played it or like beaten it. I've probably played it. I probably haven't beaten it. So beating A Link to the Past was really a fun experience with Ed. As we were doing like a retro game show to supplement Nintendo Power Block at the time, and it was really fun. So yeah, I played Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time was actually probably my first real attempt at playing Zelda. I think the reason why I don't like Ocarina of Time as much as most people, I've only played the game through all the way to completion one time. And I think it's because I didn't really understand how Zelda worked at the time, so I was like kind of using a guide, but kind of wasn't because I wanted to experience it. And when you get to the Shadow Temple, you have to go back in time. And I did not know that you could go back in time. So I got so frustrated that I just stopped playing and started playing something else. And then but up until that point, I really enjoyed it. And like, also, I didn't really understand anybody's problem with the Water Temple because I beat it. I beat the Water Temple without a guide, and I was like, well, and then people started being like, "Oh, the Water Temple's so hard." And I'm like, "Is it?" Oh well, I beat it, so whatever.
I'm a genius.
Yeah, that's what I said. But then I played Majora's Mask, and I was so enamored with it that I ended up asking for it, and I got Majora's Mask in the guide for Majora's Mask because I wanted to do all like the masks, like deliver all the masks and kind of 100% it, and I ended up 100%ing Majora's Mask. It was awesome. It was like, I think that's why I love Majora's Mask so much, is like I just felt like it was really the first game I sat down to like do everything in 100% and do it like just really just demolishing that game. And then I was like, you know what, I should go back to Ocarina of Time, and I ended up getting the guide for Ocarina of Time, read that I had to go back in time, felt like an idiot, ended up beating it, and I was like, okay, well, I'm done with that. So, and that was the last time I played Ocarina of Time.
It's hard to keep up with all of those games because they're pretty lengthy. Like, I haven't touched Twilight Princess for the Wii U in about 2 weeks now.
That's a long game, especially if you're trying to get all the heart pieces and
bugs.
Yeah, the bugs. The
pose.
When they announced that the Wolf Link amiibo was, you could like level it up and use it in Breath of the Wild, I put 70 something hours into Twilight Princess, trying to get all the heart pieces, all of the bugs, all of like the secret stuff. And then they have that like special 50 level dungeon that you can do. And I ended up doing that whole thing, and I was ready to be done with that game by the time, we got to the end. But
I think it's probably my favorite Zelda game, but I will say, looking back, I feel like it was a little bit of a pre-Breath of the Wild as far as being huge and open. It is more linear than Breath of the Wild, but there's a lot of empty space, which I guess is just because, hey, limitations.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of attribute it to that too. Is like, yeah, the GameCube was not a very, like, at the time it was probably, a lot of people say it was the most powerful system because it didn't have like, the Xbox was powerful, but it had like a running hard drive and an online service and kind of like a functioning, almost PC-esque dashboard and GameCube, you was just like, oh, when you press down to get to your memory card slot, but just play the games, Yeah, I don't know. It was, I played it through I had the Wii version, but I ended up playing it on the GameCube back then, by the way, because like, I kind of started losing my love for Nintendo with the Wii. I just was not into the Wii at all.
I would love them to port Skyward, so many people, I would love them to port Skyward Sword to where you don't have to get off your butt, just swing a sword.
Yeah, which is funny because, like, speaking of Skyward Sword, like, I loved where they were going with that story, but the motion stuff and, like, every enemy was a puzzle, and it's just, like, I know Zelda's about puzzles, but, like, every time I see a Skulltula fall out of a tree, I don't want to have to, like, figure out which way to slash so I can get by him. Like, that was rough.
It was. Oh my gosh, Corey, we could turn this whole podcast into a Zelda one. I
mean, yeah, probably.
I am so... I don't know if I should apologize.
Nah, look, we're just having a conversation. We're just, you wanted to learn about me. I like Zelda, and this is where we went with it, okay? So
I'm just making sure that you're not like, God, woman.
Shut up.
Well, okay, so you've mentioned some of your favorite Zelda moments and Zelda games and your triumphs and your gripes with the series, but just growing up, were there any moments in video game history that stuck out to you?
I think the first time that I realized that, I guess, E3 was a thing, and like Nintendo used to hold this conference called Space World, which was like, where they showed off everything that they were doing. It was kind of like their, it was their investor showcase, right? Like, toys are like, this is how they sold their games to retail, because, it's not just like a YouTube trailer anymore, right? It's like they actually had to go and sell these products to stores, and if stores wanted them, they would make space for them, right? And like Space World was like Nintendo's investor presentation, and so I realized that was a thing, and that's where like I saw Luigi's Mansion for the first time, and Zelda, like next gen Zelda at the time, which ended like that trailer was awesome. It was basically they took the Ocarina of Time art style and kind of put it in the GameCube style graphics, and it looked amazing. And they showed up Mario 128 for the first time, which ended up actually not being a Mario game at all. It ended up being Pikmin. Ironically, that tech demo ended up being Pikmin, which still one of my favorite games of all time. Pikmin is like for the Pikmin for the GameCube is just an almost perfect video game. I will defend that game. The sequels, they're good, right? I think 3 is a little too much, but Pikmin 1 is like a near perfect video game, and I will stand by that statement. Anybody can come fight me. I will argue with you to the death.
What is it about Pikmin that makes it an almost perfect game?
I don't know. Like, I really liked the way you had to use the different colors to solve different puzzles. Like, you couldn't use the red or the yellow ones in the water, but the blue ones could go underwater and pick up the stuff, and the red ones could, I think it's the red ones could like carry heavier items. And I don't know. I just really liked the ability. It's like a real-time strategy game, but an action-y real-time strategy game. And at the time I was really into real-time strategy games, and it was, that's what I wanted. It was just, I think it was just like the right game at the right time. And, it just hit all the right notes, so.
Oh, I love hearing people get excited about games like that. It looks so cute.
It's funny because they have Pikmin 1 and 2 for the Wii. I wish they would bring those to Switch. Like, as much as I liked Pikmin 3, like Pikmin 1 and 2 are still like way better. And I don't know, when I played Pikmin 3 for the first time, I was kind of disappointed in it. It was a beautiful game. I didn't care to control 3 different characters, like that's not what I wanted from Pikmin. And I don't know, but I will have to say, speaking of the Wii, not liking the Wii, it is still one of the only games I will defend is better with the Wii remote nunchuck is Pikmin 3.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's like you can lay the gamepad in your lap and it's still the map and everything, but it's the only way that you can run, aim, and throw at the same time in Pikmin 3.
Oh, the Wii or the Wii U?
The Wii U.
Wii U,
but
okay.
you can use the Wii remote on the Wii U.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so any of you Wii U owners out there, if you want a hot take on Pikmin 3, there you go.
I still have my Wii U. I love it.
I do too. Mine's, speaking of the Wii U, like that's how this whole thing kind of started. Me and Ed started doing Nintendo Power Block when the Wii U was at its height of popularity. I don't know. The Wii U is a fantastic system that just, I don't know, fell short for some reason. I don't know if the gamepad just felt like a toy. The marketing definitely confused a lot of people. I think a lot of people just thought it was an add-on to the Wii. I don't know. There's a lot of things wrong with the Wii U, but in the grand scheme of things, I would say the Wii U's library of games is by far the best out of any Nintendo console.
It has some nice hits, except the Animal Crossing.
Yeah, well, you know how I feel about Animal Crossing, Celeste.
Yes, but that was like the worst representation for the game. Yeah. I feel like it would be a game for someone your daughter's age, honestly.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. But like, you look at for me personally, you look at the Wii U. It has my 3 favorite Zelda games on it: Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Breath of the Wild. It has my favorite 3D Mario game in Mario 3D World. It has the best 2D Mario game in a long time in Super Mario, New Super Mario Bros. U. All these names, it's just ridiculous.
I get them so confused. I know.
Has my favorite Assassin's Creed on it in Assassin's Creed 4. It has my favorite Batman game in Arkham Origins. It has Xenoblade Chronicles X, which is secretly the best Xenoblade game. It has Tokyo Mirage Sessions, which is secretly one of the best JRPGs of all time. I could go on about the Wii U. That library of games is seriously one of the best libraries that Nintendo's ever produced, and that's why they're putting them all on the Switch now, I guess, because like, except for like, where's my Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, guys?
Where's my Color Splash? Even though I have it on Wii U. I thought people say that there aren't any good Paper Mario games after Thousand Year Door, and I have to say, Color Splash is really fun.
I think a lot of people say a lot of things, though. Like, I feel like that's the thing. Like, kind of going back to like the podcasting and like game industry stuff. Like, I feel like a lot of people in the game industry kind of jump on certain bandwagons that don't need to exist. Like, I feel like people should just be able to like things that they like without having to be scared to be ridiculed by it, right? Like, when I used to say Twilight Princess was my favorite Zelda game, people used to make fun of me, like go out of their way to make fun of me because I would say Twilight Princess is my favorite Zelda game. And I'm like, why is that so hard to believe? Like, just because it's not Ocarina of Time or Wind Waker, which, by the way, I don't know if you remember this, but people hated Wind Waker when it came out. People hated it because it was not in the Ocarina of Time art style or the art style that they showed at Space World that year. People hated it. They called it Zelda. They called it, they called it a bunch of things. In revisionist history, people say, oh man, it's the greatest Zelda game. Well, you didn't think that in 2003 when the game came out,
Were you disappointed when you first saw it?
I was, but then I played it and I'm like, oh, well, this is great. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was disappointed. I wanted Twilight Princess, right? Before Twilight Princess was announced. I wanted that Zelda. I liked Majora's Mask. I liked the darker Zelda. But that's not what we got. But I was a big Zelda fan, and like any franchise that you like, if something's not appealing, you're going to give it a shot anyway because you like the franchise and you want it to keep going, so you buy the games. And like it was the same with Metroid Prime though, right? Like everybody loved the 2D Metroids. People hated the idea of a first-person shooter Metroid game. And now look, everybody loves Metroid Prime, and we're getting a fourth one on Switch, right? Like, I just don't understand why people can't just enjoy the things that they like. It really bothers me, and that's why I kind of like stop. This year I unfollowed on Twitter. Like, I know you shouldn't really judge how you feel about what people say on Twitter, but like, I unfollowed like something like 400 people on Twitter.
That's a lot of people.
Because like, I'm tired of dealing with video game, the culture that the video game industry has created. How do I want to put this without sounding like an asshole? Because it's going to come out that way. And I
think people forget that.
I just feel like for an industry that tries to stand up for the things that they stand up for, like gay rights, trans rights, whatever. Like if you don't say the right thing, or you say something and it comes out wrong, but you didn't mean it that way, it's the first industry to jump down your throat. And like it's this whole cancel culture, right? Like, yes. They come out and just like literally go out of your way to embarrass you or make you feel like the worst thing that's ever been placed on the planet. And it's like, I don't think that's fair. I know a lot of good people who don't believe in certain things, right? And like, it's not that like I'm going to agree with you all the time, or okay, Boss Rush Games, our motto is be better, right? And that's across the board, right? Like my grandma always used to say, like, you should always treat people how you would want to be treated, whether if they're being mean to you, if they are ignoring you, if they're being nice to you, whatever they're being to you, you should always be polite. You should always treat people how you want to be treated. I think about that often. Like I think about things my grandma said all the time. Like, she passed away when I was in my early 20s. She had a really big influence on me. And like, I want to be able to say, look, I did what you taught me, and not to say my parents didn't say that either, but like, I don't know, something about grandmas always just like sticks with you,
I think because they can give us back to our parents.
Yeah,
we
maybe.
get the wholesomeness.
Maybe. But like, I kind of have stopped following a lot of people that I used to, I guess you would say, idolize or want to, like, when I started doing stuff on the internet, I started doing things on the internet because I loved certain people doing things on the internet. First of all, you shouldn't do that. You should make content that makes you happy, not emulating other people's stuff, right? Like that's a big lesson I learned doing this. And it took 3 groups of people to learn how to do that, You want to expand?
Would you like to expand on that?
Yeah, I guess we can kind of start from the humble beginnings of I started making content on the internet. Well, I remember when YouTube first became a thing, and me and someone I knew a long time ago were thinking about doing some YouTube stuff or whatever, because like YouTube was a baby then, right? Like in 2000, what, 7, 8, 9-ish.
The good old days.
Yeah. And we were like talking about doing something like this way back then. And this person died in an accident, and like everything kind of just like, whatever, I'm not going to do it. You know, that was the whole thing, was like, do it with that person. And it's just not happening. But then like I started like listening to podcasts in like, I don't know, 2012, 13ish. So I'm like, I kind of want to do that, but I don't know how to do it. And then, you know, I started listening to more podcasts. I really started getting back into like video games and learning like who these personalities are, and, you know, what I liked about them, what I didn't like. And I'm sure like most of the people that are making content within our kind of sphere, there's a group out there called Kinda Funny who they're still around. They're still very popular. It's a group of people that left IGN to do their own YouTube stuff. And that was kind of like a point where I know me and like a bunch of other people, that was like a point where like, oh, if they're doing that, we could do that too, you know? And I was still doing it by myself. I was like, how do I do this? So I was just like, you know what? I'm going to start a blog. I'm going to, you know, talk about Nintendo. Everybody needs a thing. But I want to do something weird and funny, funky like them. I'd started this group called DNA, and there's like this whole other story behind how DNA became a thing, which was the first kind of group I was a part of. But, you know, I started doing this stuff on the internet. With that channel still exists. If you want to look up the DNA Network on YouTube, that stuff still exists. It's still it was what I thought I wanted to do because of what Kinda Funny was doing, is why DNA existed. You know, we did a main podcast. It started with me and my friend doing a Destiny podcast, which ironically is kind of what I'm doing now. We did a bunch of movie stuff. We talked about movies. We talked about my friend had a beer tasting show. It's like there's a bunch of content on that channel that I'm like really proud of. It's where Nintendo Power Block started as like a 5 to 10 minute YouTube segment for that channel. Ed wasn't even involved when we started it. Like it was wild. But that group, like, it kind of came to a point where, like, you know, people got busy and people didn't really want to do it anymore. We were doing so much, and a lot of people burned out, I would say, and it's understandable. Like, we were doing a lot, like, more than we're doing now with Boss Rush. Like, we were doing a lot. And so before that ended, we started an internet community-driven show called Nerds Gone Rogue, which was... you know, we wanted to be like, oh, well, we want to do stuff with people within our community, but since DNA there's 4 or 5 of us in a room together doing this stuff, like we all work together, and so we all kind of like grouped up after work and did all this stuff, and Nerds Gone Rogue became our community show, and Nintendo Power Block kind of became a spinoff of that show, and like this is where Ed and I met, was like we were in a Nintendo Facebook group together, and we started chatting. I was like, hey, you want to talk about Nintendo? Because nobody I know really wants to talk about Nintendo, and that's how Nintendo Power Block started. It was me, Ed, and our friend Adrian, who is actually a game developer now over at the Frozen Machine. They develop mobile games and small indie games and stuff. Really talented guy. You should check out. They have 2 free games on the App Store if you want to check them out. Actually, I think they have 3 now. But Tuna Cycle is one of them, which is like a endless runner where you're like a tuna fish that's riding a unicycle trying to without like falling off. It's really a fun game. I was addicted to it for like a whole month. It was crazy. The free one has ads. You can pay, I think it's $2 for no ads. It's a fun game. And then they have I forget what it's called, but it's like I think it's called like a Reading Rush or something, where you have to like spell different words with falling blocks. It's kind of like Tetris with letters. It's really fun.
Oh, that sounds extra challenging because you have to think about words.
Yeah, it's challenging. I was not smart enough to play it, but it was still really fun. We started that, and then we kind of like had like a rotating third chair, and then like when our DNA group kind of fell apart, it was painful, but I still had this other side thing with Nerds Gone Rogue and Nintendo Power Block, and we kind of made that its own thing, kind of like a spin out of that. So it didn't hurt as bad as I think it would have if I didn't have something else to do. You know, we did 4.5 years of Nerds Gone Rogue.
That's a long time.
Never missed an episode, never missed a week. We had a bunch of spin-off shows. That's where Arsenal X was born out of that. We had a PlayStation show born out of that. We had a bunch of stuff. That channel also exists still. I'm actually trying to clean up those channels a little bit because I do plan on archiving those channels as something for me to look back on, because like as much as it hurt when those things ended, it's still like I learned a lot about production, about putting like managing teams and putting people in the right places to succeed, and what to do and what not to do with large groups, you know, and that's one of my big things for 2021 is like, I want to archive those channels somehow. I don't know if they're going to live on Boss Rush, if they're going to be on some sort of separate channel. But I want to archive those things because they still mean a lot to me. Like Nerds Gone Rogue specifically still means a lot to me, even though it ended a little over a year ago now. Yeah, that was when that ended. This is I've talked about this a little bit on when we were recording Arsenal X yesterday. When Nerds Gone Rogue ended, it was really devastating. Like I questioned if I even wanted to do any of this again. You know, it was we all kind of had different ideas of what we wanted it to be, and there was a bunch of people on different pages. I wanted it to be like this big grand internet thing where like we had sponsorships, we made money, we were doing this, and like it a lot of it was like probably my immature brain just being like, we can do this, let's just do it. I don't care what you guys say. I want to be this, I want to do this. And I actually wrote a blog, one of the few blogs I wrote this year on Boss Rush Games. It was just like a kind of like an open letter to them, like saying I'm sorry, like how things ended, and you know how I treated them, and how, you know, a lot of people said a lot of words that, you know, maybe at the time you know how you say things that you don't really mean, but you're in the heat of the moment and you're just trying to like get your point across, and then you yell at people and you just kind of things happen. Like, you know, I don't think the way it ended is entirely my fault, but I'm also like, it is my fault, you know? But like when it ended, I was like really devastated. And Ed and Jesse like really kind of pulled me out of it. And what I was telling them on Arsenal X yesterday was like, it took a long time. Like, even though we were doing the Boss Rush podcast, which it wasn't even called the Boss Rush podcast at the time, we didn't even have a name for anything we wanted to do. We were just like, we knew we still wanted to hang out and talk about games and stuff. But like when that ended, my passion for this was like depleted. Like it was gone, and I did not know if I would ever get it back. And, you know, we started doing the Boss Rush podcast with our friend Ray Apollo, who is a very talented Twitch streamer. He works for Twitch now. He's one of their Midwest community people, and he's just a really talented guy. If you're into streaming at all, I would check out Ray Apollo on Twitch. He's you know, he's one of Josh's best friends too. Like he's just a great guy, always positive, always smiling, always like he was the energy that I wish I had, you know. And so we started doing that. He was kind of doing stuff with us part-time, doing his streaming stuff, and I couldn't find, you know, I couldn't find the love for this. It took almost well into the summer, like probably a month before we met you, honestly, like for me to even be at a point where I was like, okay, I'm having fun with this again. You know, sometimes like I just kind of felt like a lot of people have listened to us for a long time. And like there was a clear split of audience of like, okay, well, they went and did their own thing. If you want to check them out, it's still a fun show. It's a good show called Story Route Zero. It's half of our old group. I would go listen to it if you're into like indie games and smaller titles, and they have a lot of guests on that are indie developers and stuff. I would check it out if you're into that kind of stuff. It's still a really good show. I recommend it for people who are into indie games and PlayStation and platinum trophies and stuff like that. I still talk to Matt once in a while. We actually talked right after our first recording, actually, because it was like our 1-year anniversary of not doing it, and it took that long to like find the passion for doing this again. And you know, we met you and had you on the PlayStation watch along with.
Yeah,
which you know, kind of thinking back now is like probably not the first thing we probably should have had her on, but you know,
no, I was god awful.
It was just like, you know, you don't we didn't know. We were just excited to have somebody else to talk to besides us.
I'm just picking up. No, you mean as far as like kind of a cold call, like, oh, this is your first thing you're ever gonna be.
Yeah.
It was fun. I really enjoyed it. I learned about the games. I paid attention.
So like it took a while, and then, you know, we were just doing that, and then Ed a lot of the people who followed us over were like, can you please bring Nintendo Power Block back? And so Ed and I started doing Nintendo Power Block again. And Jesse, like, I mean, he wanted to bring Arsenal X back, and like, to be honest, I didn't really want to bring it back. I was like,
Arsenal X?
Yeah, I was like, you know, I don't know if I have the time to do it. Like, our schedules are all messed up now. Like, we only have the weekends to do this. We started doing Nintendo Power Block without Jesse because people wanted it back so bad but we couldn't record, you know, 2 and 3 and 4 shows in a day. Like, that's just not feasible. You know, that's just not realistic, you know, and with our schedules and timing and responsibilities. But Jesse and I sat down and we were like, okay, let's bring it back. Let's say let's do it for a month and see how people receive it, and we'll go from there. And you know, we really struggled to find the personality for that show. Like, it was just me and Jesse, but like at the time I was like, I was playing a lot of Nintendo games and just Destiny, and he was playing Call of Duty and stuff like that, and like we were really struggling to like find what the show needed to be. And I was like, I almost thought about pulling the plug on the show. I'm like, I'm not feeling the show. And then Jesse tried hosting for a while because I had the idea of like, what if each show had a different host and each one of them had their own personality? So Jesse hosted a couple episodes and he was like, I don't feel comfortable hosting. I would rather be like the guy who bounce ideas off of and stuff. And I really didn't know where to take that show. And it was actually probably around episode 102, 3, 4. Like, we started having some guests on. And then Joe and Josh came on the show. And that really, like, having them on the show changed the entire course of the trajectory of that show. Like, it just, like, that show has a big personality now. That show has a direction, like a clear direction now. Whereas, you know, like Power Block now has a kind of like a clear direction with Ed hosting it. And, you know, like I said before, like we did do this before, and like I feel better now that we're doing it now and having a second chance at this, because I actually have like a clear vision of what I feel like Boss Rush Games should be now. You know, whether it's Boss Rush Podcast, whether it's Crossroads, LAN Party with Logan and the entertainment side of stuff, the networking side of stuff. Like, I don't know what it was. Like, I was talking to you, and I talked to Ed a little bit, and I talked to Megan a little bit. And at between those three conversations, it just kind of like clicked, you know? And I told you, like, I'm really overwhelmed. I don't really know if I want to like do all of this anymore. Like, I still wanted to do this, but like, I wish we were smaller. I wish, you know, how do we do this? And like, after we had that conversation and Megan and I talked a little bit and Ed and I talked a little bit, it just clicked, you know, something in me just clicked. And I was like, now everything just has like this clear trajectory, clear path. Like me hosting Boss Rush podcast again and having like a kind of like an evergreen show at the top, right? Like, obviously it's Boss Rush podcast and we have our console shows and then, you know, our entertainment side, whatever. But having a really strong flagship show is key to making this whole thing work, I feel like, in the way that we want it to. Like, people listen to Arsenal X that clearly don't listen to the other shows, right? It's just, like, that's just how podcasts work. People listen to Xbox podcasts are probably hardcore Xbox gamers and probably not going off to listen to like Nintendo Power Block. Some of them are.
Okay.
Like, there's definitely crossover, but like, you know, that's fine. That's fine. But the way I see the Boss Rush podcast going from here on out is like, we're going to record it a week ahead of time. You can watch us record it live, but like, if you want to wait for the audio version, it's going to be the next week, you know, like 7-8 days after we record it. Part of that is because like, when I'm editing the shows, it gives me a little bit of a breathing room to edit the show, to be honest with you. But also, like, the way I kind of envision that show is being more of like an evergreen podcast where you can listen to any of the episodes 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, 6 months from now, and still have the same experience listening to it and feel like you're not behind. I think that's really smart because it doesn't double dip on anything the other shows are talking about, but it also gives that show a clear direction, and it gives us a lot of kind of wiggle room to do whatever we want with it. And I don't know, like this summer, really, my passion came back this summer for all this. And then just within like the last month and a half, just kind of finding like a clear vision for what I wanted this to be. Like I don't know if I've been more motivated to do something.
I'm sure the whole scenario that you were describing reminds me of somebody starting a company and they're just getting on their feet and they're starting to realize, oh my goodness, this is overwhelming. I need some help. And you seem, I know you're still busy. I know you're doing all the editing and more people are, I believe, jumping in on the editing part.
Yeah. Dan actually edited his interview with Mike Miller, which you guys will heard on Christmas Day. If you want to listen to that, it's on our expansion pack feed. Go listen to it. It's a really good interview. It's only about a half hour. But him and Ed actually have a discussion about the game at the front of the show. So you should check it out. Mike Miller is a composer for Evergate, which is a indie platformer, really cute indie platformer, very challenging, very fun. I would check that game out also. I know I'm kind of like plugging everybody else's things here, but I think that's part of what I'm getting at too, is like, I want to help people. With the other two groups I was a part of, I was really selfish in the way I was creating content. Like, I want to create this for me. I don't really care what you guys think. I kind of am making this for a purpose, and that's not the way you should be doing stuff. Like anything, selfishly, right? Like to get ahead. You know, we've worked with some people who are doing some things for some selfish reasons, and like we've hit some speed bumps with working with certain people, and it's just kind of like, I don't know. I felt like once I realized that, it took this huge weight off of my shoulders of like, this should be fun. You know, yeah, of course, I want Boss Rush to be this big thing, and I have really high personal goals for this thing. I want our podcast to be the best podcast on the internet. Are they ever going to be? I don't know. Some people have written in and or messaged me or said some things in DMs on Twitter saying some really, really nice things about our podcasts. And it's kind of the first time I've heard that in a long time, which was really humbling to hear. Because like, we do so much, you don't really, well, at least I haven't really stopped to think about like how are we doing? What do people think? Like, you just kind of like, you go into the podcast, you record it, I edit it, I move on to the next thing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't stop and just take in what we just did a lot of the time. And it's been really humbling to hear some people's opinions on our shows recently, and even people within Boss Rush, you know, like Austin, who is on our PlayStation show, sent me a message the other day. He's just like, or maybe no, it was before the Boss Rush podcast the other day. Actually, he was like, I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass or anything, but like, Arsenal X is an awesome show. It's like one of the best Xbox shows out there, and I listen to Unlocked, and I listen to Expansion Pass, and I listen to this show, and I'm like, that was really nice to hear. You know, like, for a show that we didn't know what we wanted it to be when we brought it back for the first like 30 episodes, to be someone's favorite Xbox show is like really humbling to hear. And I'm not like trying to toot my own horn or anything, because it's like, if anything, it has nothing to do with me. It's adding Josh and Joe, and having, you know, Jesse be like, having a lot to do with like getting some of the stuff for the show ready. Like, I don't know. It was just really nice to hear, honestly. And some of the things that I get about the 1v1s that you do is just like this. I had no idea the show was going to be as popular as it is. You know,
are you just saying that because I'm right here?
Yeah, kind of.
I knew it.
But seriously, like, the 1v1 stuff is so good for us. Like, it does amazing numbers. It brings a lot of people in that maybe wouldn't, because maybe you're interviewing their favorite podcaster or their favorite content creator or their favorite artist, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's really fun to see other people come in here and be like, oh, well, maybe I'll stick around and listen to the next one, or maybe I'll check out this other show. And it's just, we've grown so organically, which is something that I think some people have a hard time doing, maybe, you know, like, it's really hard to grow a podcast from nothing, especially with the amount of podcasts that are out there. There's literally a podcast for everything out there, probably multiple podcasts. And in the video game space, there are thousands upon thousands of video game podcasts that you could be listening to. And the fact that, like, somewhere between, you know, Nintendo Power Block, for example, gets 2,400 listens a week, or Arsenal X gets 1,800 listens a week. The fact that many people take the time, take an hour and a half to 2 hours out of their day to listen to us talk about dumb stuff about video games is like really humbling.
I think the personalities you have with Boss Rush also help, because we've talked about this in the meeting last week with our leadership meeting. I think the people involved have a lot of integrity, and I think they're really good people. Mm-hmm. I think they care about one another. Sure, they want to produce content. They'd like to have a wider audience, but I don't know. I feel very comfortable, and that can be hard in the video game space. There can be some buttholes out there, to put it nicely.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying at the beginning too. Like, not that I still don't respect a lot of these people that I used to like want to be like when I was starting out. Like, you know, I still listen to, like, I used to want to be kind of funny, like a lot of our friends, I feel like, and a lot of our friends still do. I don't think that's out of the realm of unrealistic. Like, I know a lot of people that are friends with us that want to be kind of funny doing content, and that's fine. Like, I used to be that way too, but I think the biggest thing I can say is once I got out of the mindset of, like, I don't want to say idolizing them, because I think that's the wrong term to use, but like, once I got out there and decided not to make the content that they're making and do it for myself, you know, and got out of that space, and then like kind of stepping back from what people think of in the video game industry as a whole, right? And kind of started doing things how I wanted to do it and how I kind of thought about it. I think it made us that much better. I really do.
Yeah, being yourself.
And like, everybody's all about being like inclusive and stuff, and I feel like being inclusive is really great. And I don't want this to sound like I don't want to be inclusive, because this isn't what I'm saying, but I also I want to put the best people for the job in the position that makes sense. I don't care. I don't care if you're black, white, gay, bi, straight, trans. I don't care who you are. If you're a good person and if you're the right person for the job, I want you to be a part of what we're doing, And I feel like we've become diverse in an organic way. We have a really popular Nintendo podcast that's helmed by a bisexual black man, right? I'm really proud of that, but it didn't happen because I said, "Oh, Ed, you're a bisexual black man. I need you on my team to check a box." No, it happened because Ed and I are friends, right? I don't care what.
It's sincere.
Yeah, I hope what we're doing comes off like that. I didn't ask you to be a part of the team because you're a woman. I asked you because you're a nice, great person to talk to, and you have a lot of interesting ideas, and you want to interview people. That's great. I want you to do that because you're good at it. Oh. No, I'm being serious though. LeRon does a lot of PC and PlayStation. He's into the PlayStation ecosystem and PC stuff. Okay, you have a great personality. Why wouldn't I want you on our team? I don't care what you do, who you date, what you do on your own time. If you're a good person and you have the ability to do something special here, I want you here.
I think that's really important too, because people can tell whenever you're pandering.
Yeah.
We can sense whenever something is inauthentic, and people do just want to check those boxes. And that's an insult to the people who fall in those categories. Mm-hmm. I think I think Boss Rush has grown organically. Like you said, we have such a diverse team, and it's a team with a lot of heart, and we interview people from all walks of life. You guys had a Black Lives Matter panel during the summer of 2020. You had a Pride panel during the summer of 2020. You give people a chance to share their voices.
And to be 100% honest with you, neither of those were my idea. That was Ed's idea. Ed wanted to do those things. And I'm not going to say no because I thought they were great ideas, but I feel like if those things happened because of me, that would have been something totally different than what they became, right? Because Ed is passionate about who he is, and I want him to be passionate about who he is. I don't ever want anybody here to feel like they don't belong or somebody is picking on them for who they are. Because the first time that happens, you're out of here. That happened this summer, right? We had somebody who was here. I'm not going to call this person out, but we had somebody who was working with us. He did some things that we didn't like. He was harassing our friends. He was doing some other things within, the DM system on Twitter with some of our people that we work with. And I wasn't having it, and he was gone, and I'm not going to say everybody that we work with is going to be the best person, ever. But I feel like besides a couple hiccups here and there, a couple people we've worked with in the past as guests and stuff, a couple hiccups here and there, we've done a pretty great job of just having great people here who all believe in what we're trying to do. And that on top of everything else is the most amazing thing,
And you can't beat yourself up, which I hope you don't, about the wrong person being in there. We're all adults. we all know right from wrong. And it's like having a company. You think this person's going to be a good fit, and then they choose to do something inappropriate or whatever it may be. It's how you react to and handle that defines you. It's really easy to keep good people. I'm curious how people react when things get kind of tough and you have to make decisions. So don't ever feel bad that if there's a rotten egg among the group, you're not the cause of that rotten egg.
Yeah, and I think it took me a little bit to realize that over the summer when that happened. Like, I was like really hard on myself when all that happened, and even like a few things that happened during the election, like with friends, like people that I considered friends, things that happened, and like I had to like just get past it and just, it was like, look, I don't have time in my life for people who are, you know, causing drama for no reason, being assholes for no reason, being just like shitty people to you because of things you say or don't say. And that's what I mean by like doing our own thing, but still having these core values. Like, this is like I said, day zero of this project, Ed and Jesse and I and Ray at the time sat down and said, our main thing, we have to be better to one another, be better to our friends, be better to people who are doing things out there, even if they are causing pain or frustration to people. Like, we have to be better and be better to the people that we are working with, be better to each other. And I think for the most part, we have stuck to that since day one. You know, I'm not going to say we've been perfect the whole time, because I definitely have not been perfect the whole time, you know, but I think that we've done a pretty good job at that. And I couldn't be more proud of the group that we are working with, whether you've been here since the first day or a couple weeks or since the summer. Like, I couldn't be prouder of everybody we've ever worked with. So
that's humbling, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to be involved.
Yeah, you know, somebody paid me to do that, but you know,
I figured. I know this is all just cheap talk. I feel like you answered all the questions I had.
Yeah, I just started
No,
ranting and kind of talking about other things. But
I really prefer that instead of just, okay, now here's the next question on the list. You know?
Yeah.
Just this organic conversation. And I think Boss Rush Games has been a big silver lining for a lot of people, myself included, for 2020.
Yeah, it's been a rough year for a lot of people, you know, with especially like, you know, besides COVID, right? Like, besides COVID, like, the Black community has had a pretty rough year. You know, I hope we've done a good job supporting that cause. You know, friends of ours have had pretty rough years. You know, like, one of our friends is going through something really tough right now. It's been a tough year for a lot of people for different reasons, whether you lost your job or you're going through some things that I could never understand, or, you know, I bringing people together to do a podcast once a week, twice a week, a couple times a week, you know, just to cool off or take your mind off some things, I think has been good for everybody. And, I'm glad that this could be a silver lining for some people. It's tough, you know, it's tough for a lot of people out there. And I hope that our shows each week have brought in some people some distraction and some joy, whether you're hosting a show or just listening.
It's kind of like preparing for either a performance through a play or a band performance of some kind, just because there are days, and Corey and I will be the first to admit, there are days where we're either really, really tired. for whatever reason, there are days we might have other things on our minds. Stress, work is going on, family stuff, just a mood, just being human. And the world feels heavy, but you kind of have to, I don't want to say you have to turn it on, but it doesn't feel forced. It's truly an escape where you can focus and bring your best self no matter what to your show. Kind of like in a play, like the show must go on.
Mm-hmm. I've definitely had a few shows like that where like, man, like there's been a few where I'm just like, man, I do not want to do this right now, but you know, it's Thursday. I'm dead tired. Tower Casuals. The show must go on. You know, and sometimes you can like if you pay attention to some of the episodes, especially ones where we have guests on. Like, I kind of take a backseat and just let the guests kind of, you know, take over with Josh and everything. But like, you know, this is something that I'm really passionate about, and if I couldn't do it anymore, I would severely miss it. You know, I know we should probably wrap it up. We've been going for quite a while now, but it's like...
You got work tomorrow.
I know.
Right now.
I know. But I was telling Josh the other day, I was like, this is what I want to do. Like, professionally at some point. Like, I want to podcast. I want to like, I've set everything up to like start streaming again. Like, this is what I want to do. And I feel like there's enough room on the internet for a group like us to have a tiny corner of the internet to ourselves and have a niche group that follows us. And I mean, I've seen our community, like the community we have now, even though it's smaller than the Nerds Gone Rogue community that we had. The community we have now is infinitely more. They communicate with us. They ask us questions. They communicate with us on Twitter. They, you know, like they comment on stuff that we post, and like having a smaller, more dedicated community means a lot more than a community that's like 10,000 people, 12,000 people, you know? And I don't know. Like I was telling Josh, this is what I want to do. This is, I'm putting like more effort and more time into this in 2021 than I did this year. And I know I put a lot of time into this year, but like it's been more like back end work. This 2021 is going to be more like front facing, on camera. This is what I'm doing type work. And you know, it's what I want to do. And I hope that the passion that we all have for this, the camaraderie, the friendships we've all made, like I hope that shows through. And like the, you know, we didn't even touch on, we're building a network of other podcasts in 2021. Like our goal is to like bring other shows on to like the website and promote other shows that we think are great. You know, like WASD and Beyond is a show that you and I both listened to, and you interviewed them for a 1v1.
Crazy guys.
Crazy guys, but it's a great show. And like it's a show that deserves more eyeballs. And I feel like what we've built with Boss Rush, and you know, we're kind of talking to them to like, hey, we're starting a network where other podcasts can come in and toss ideas off of us or each other eventually. And, you know, kind of we want to blend audiences with other shows, maybe have crossover episodes or whatever. Like, you know, we want to find other shows that people should be listening to and help promote them too. And I feel like what we've done this year with Boss Rush, with our own shows, we're privileged enough to create an umbrella of like a Boss Rush network of shows that aren't things that we do, and help promote them and get eyes on them that maybe...
I know that, and I'm sure you can tell, we all have different podcasts we listen to as well, and I love interacting with fellow fans, and I love interacting with the people who listen to our podcast. There are some people I could probably name off the top of my head, like Geek Row 27, shout out to you.
Yeah.
Jack Brow. He's a big cheerleader. He's a big fan of the Retrovaniacs podcast, and Billy from Retrovaniacs is our third chair on Talk the Walk, because we were both talking about walking simulators for a long time, and then Ed brought up the show idea. It's like, Ed, I know somebody. I know a guy.
I know a guy.
And just people like Jack Brow, and oh gosh, they're friends from Another Zelda podcast. They connect with us, and they pop into the feed, the live chat. And one of my coworkers one Monday night needed something to listen to, and he listened to Nintendo Power Block, and he got involved in the chat, and he said it really helped clear his head. He'd been kind of stressed with work. So
yeah, that's like, I could probably name like 10 podcasts off the top of my head that like I listen to, because, well, not because I'm just friends with them, but like they're good shows, you know, like you should be listening to these. Like the Diggity podcast is like ridiculously fun. Like every time they've had me on has just been a blast, you know, and Kami Jace, the Weekly Cooldown is a great show for people who maybe want a different perspective on gaming. Like he's such a great guy, and I wish we had him on this stuff more. And you know,
his voice, man.
What?
His voice.
Yeah.
Golden voice.
You know, like the Loser podcast is a really fun podcast. Like I think there's a lot of people out there that deserve to be seen, and you know, we're kind of experimenting with the network thing. We're kind of, by the time you hear this, we will already have a plan in place for a quote unquote Boss Rush Network first class. You know, we've had a couple people reach out and kind of want to be a part of it, and we're gonna try to do it. It's a big task. I'm well aware that it's probably going to be a little more overwhelming than I intend it to be, but it's something I want to do for other people. You won't
know until you try, right?
Yeah, and right. Like if it doesn't work, I'm sorry in advance, I guess. But
you won't know. We're all human. Everything's an experiment.
Yeah.
Okay, the expert in anything was once a beginner. And here's an example, and you might know what I'm talking about. Look at JCPenney, for example. Remember like 10 years ago when they changed their pricing method? They got rid of the coupons, and people lost their minds.
Yeah.
So they went back
yeah.
to the coupons.
Yeah.
We don't have Boss Rush coupons. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Maybe one day, but it sounds like a different type of show that we're not doing live.
Coupon? What?
I don't know.
Yeah, like what was that, supermarket sweep? Or
yeah. So you know, like the Bad Bitches podcast is a show that like we love. It's like it doesn't even have to be about games. Like they're a women's history podcast where they talk about crazy women in history while they're, you know, drinking and probably smoking something. But it's like, it's a hilarious show, and honestly, we did one After Dark episode with them, and I've been wanting them to be a part of Boss Rush Games ever since then, but they were part of another network, and then I found out that they weren't a part of that network for like 8 months in a chat I was having with Kayla, and I was like, why didn't you tell me? We would have just thrown you on the website at some point. Like, but like it's people like that where like, yeah, their podcast is really crude and really like out there, and you know, it's probably not something you want to listen to around with your kids or anything, but like underneath that show, they're like the sweetest people on the planet, and like they would probably do anything for you if you were their best friend. Like, you know what I mean? Like those are the type of people that I want to support. And that's what I'm hoping the Boss Rush podcast network that we're building can do, is support these people who have great shows, who have great ideas. And, you know, like I was talking to Laurent the other day, and he said, yeah, I've been trying to do this for a long time. And like joining Boss Rush was like the push I needed to start streaming again and do this stuff again. And like him saying that was actually what made me want to do this. Was like, sometimes that's all you need is like a little push from someone who's been doing this for a little bit and gives you the motivation to do something. You know, maybe that's all you need is to keep going. And
yeah, and none of us are alone. None of us has to be alone either. It's very easy to get lost in your own thoughts.
It is. I've been there.
Yeah. In fact, I've scolded Corey in DMs before. Like,
it's true. I'm gonna post them on my Instagram. Celeste is actually very mean to me in DMs.
I'm so cruel. No, I was just trying to help you realize that, hey, let other people edit, let other people take things into their own hands, and be a boss. Like my boss, I told him like about my day job. Like, my boss hired me to do a job, and he's there for guidance if I need it, but he's not there to do my job for me. He's not there. I'm not there to add extra stress to this place.
Yeah, that's something I need to get better to, is like saying, hey, can you edit the show you just did so I don't have to wait for you to send it to me or whatever, you know. And like,
because Corey has a little one on the way, and along with having a current little one.
Oh gosh, she's a handful. But you know, like I wouldn't keep doing it if I didn't love it, you know. Like I think part of me though is like, I need to edit everything, because like, as crazy as it is to edit everything that we do, everything still comes out on time somehow. Every week, like 7 a.m. rolls around, our shows are posted on the website, on podcast services, on YouTube. And like, I am tooting my own horn a little bit for this, because like,
we do a lot.
We all do a lot. And like, trying to get those shows posted and edited and like 3 or 4 different places, like, because like Expansion Pack goes on 2 different podcast feeds, and you know, and like, depending on what show it is 2 YouTube playlists, and making sure to get it in on the website too in the proper places. Like, but like, that's the type of stuff that I like to do too. So I don't know. Yes, I'm putting it out there on the air. I do need help editing some stuff, but like, also, it's one of my favorite things to do is edit stuff. So A, please help me. B, I'm sorry. C, I love it. So give me more to do.
Oh, I'm sending you a lot lately.
I'm aware. I've just downloaded the 3 1v1s you sent me for April, I guess. I don't know. There's so much.
What are we in? Yeah, I did 2 yesterday. I did 1 this morning, and now I'm doing the one with you.
Yeah, it's
I'm pumping the brakes until next week. I'm going to try to get, my goal is to get everybody who's in Boss Rush. I want them to have their 1v1s.
I actually have a few people I think you would be interested in interviewing too. I have a small list of people.
Is it bad bitches? Because they're on my list.
No, but you know, now they are. No, there's we'll talk about it after the show. But there are a couple of people I would like to have 1v1s with on Boss Rush at some point. You know, I can wait till like the summer or whatever, but like
so we can catch up with. Hey guys, I know I interviewed you in December, but you're like a movie production. Air you until
yeah, it's
the summer.
Look. If you're listening to this, just know that if you're in a 1v1, it might not go up for like anywhere between 2 weeks to like a month and a half. So
yeah, I try to get them. I try to do at least 1 a week, and right now I'm off of work, so I'm trying to get as much done as I can.
I thought about, because like our main shows during the holiday break aren't having shows, so I thought about doubling them up so people had something to listen to during the week. But I don't know, we'll see. I already have them scheduled out, but I can always fix it. So
I mean, I could interview somebody real quick if you want.
You interviewed me for almost 2 hours, so. I think you just like spending time with me, Celeste.
I'm waiting for Timmy to just walk in one day and be like, "Are you alive? Are you all right?
Yeah. Are you okay in there? Are you busy?"
The cats are not. This is their room, and I have to kick them out because the litter box is in the other room, and they're probably like, "Why can't we be in our room? Why can't we play with our toys?" I don't understand.
Man, it's good times. Good times.
Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about? I think we covered.
I think we covered a lot. I mean, the last thing I want to say though, before we leave, I do truly appreciate everybody who has worked on this especially like the last 6 months, the kind of core group that we have now, and everybody does their part and does an amazing job, and I think the friendships we've built here and just the way that we all kind of have kind of like a, what do you call it, a flow with everybody. It doesn't matter who's on what show. Like, I feel like everybody still has a good flow. Crossroads has a great flow with LaRon and Nelly and Austin. Like, that show is the flow on that show is great. The one we have on Arsenal X is great. Like, all the shows just have their flow to them, and everybody just I don't know if everybody is listening to this, but I just want to thank everybody who's involved. LaRon, Jesse, Ed, Josh, Joe, Austin, Nelly, Dan, Logan, David, Jacob now, who's going to kind of float on Nintendo Power Block, Deshaun, you, Celeste, Megan, everybody that's involved is like, it would not work without all of you just taking the time out of your week, whether it's 90 minutes for a show or like 60 hours a week to work on something. It's just,
I think we need a Boss Rush pizza ice cream party.
oh my gosh, that'd be amazing. What if we all just came in here, like everybody just sat down on Skype with a pizza and like
some ice cream?
Yeah.
like in school.
Yeah. Like, just like not even good ice cream. It's just like the little frozen cups with like the little wooden spoon. Those not the Simpsons, the Flintstones push pops. Yeah. Maybe we can get some of them little nasty like orange juice jugs with the foil tops on them too.
Oh, little barrels. Yeah.
Yeah, those things are gross.
So sweet, so artificial, so disgusting.
I know.
What were we talking about again? I don't know.
I was just thanking everybody, and then we started talking about pizza and ice cream, and then I got excited. So.
Oh, well, I got really excited too because we ate dinner at 4:30 because we were so hungry. We couldn't wait, but I'm hungry again.
I had a bowl of cereal for dinner because when I got home from work, I was not hungry at all, and then now I'm like starving because all I had was some cereal at 5 o'clock. Frosted Mini Wheats, but like not real Frosted Mini Wheats. It's like the store brand Frosted Mini Wheats.
Sometimes those are better.
Sometimes. Not this time.
Oh God, we're gonna talk like Snack Tendo stuff if we aren't careful. We're gonna start talking about food, and now I'm looking at food.
But seriously, I just Celeste, I think you do a wonderful job with the interviews, and having you here has been just like an extra great thing for us too. So.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun. I wouldn't do it if I didn't like it.
Yeah, I'm very appreciative of everybody. So
everybody does an awesome job. It's a blessing to wake up and know, hey, there's a fun team of people. We can all be creative.
There's 7,000 messages to catch up to in our group chat. So
some of them I don't read. I'm not gonna lie.
I know. If there's more than like 10, I'm just like, I'll read the last 2 and just close the app because I have no idea what anybody's talking about. I'll just catch up later.
I'm nervous about the PAL Block group chat because sometimes they'll start talking about Age of Calamity and I haven't even played it yet. Maybe after this recording at some point I'll play it, but I'm very careful. Like,
I'm only on chapter 3 if it makes you feel better. So
it's better than chapter 0.
It's fair.
Well, Corey, where can people find you on the internet if they do not know where to find you?
You can find me at I am Corey in HD on Twitter and Instagram. You can find me on various things here on Boss Rush Games. Just follow us at Boss Rush Network on Twitter, I guess. We do a lot of live shows. We do a lot of podcasts. We do a lot of things. I would say we all write a lot, but it's really just Ed recently. I'm going to do better. I'm going to try to have at least 2 things a month that I write. My goal is to have like Game Informer does this letter from the editor every month in their magazine. That's my new goal. I want to have like a letter, like at the beginning of every month, I want to have like a letter from the editor about how I feel that we're doing, like things that, I think we're doing well, things about our community, things that I think are interesting and happening in games. So maybe look out for that soon.
Well, if you need a second pair of eyes, you know where to find me.
I do. And where is that, Celeste?
Oh, that was good. That was smooth. That was a great transition. I am on Instagram and Twitter at Fairy Crypt. My Instagram is private. So if you want me to assume that you are not a creep, please send me a direct message on there if you want to follow me. Yeah. Creeps. There are creeps on Instagram. I get a lot of, hey, we need sponsors for this product I've never heard of.
It's going to pay for some new podcast equipment. Come on, Celeste. You got to do it. Just jump in.
Seems legit.
Yeah.
But, Corey, thank you for taking the time to share with everybody.
Thanks for taking a second time to do this with me. Hopefully I won't lose this one.
It's a blast. But everybody who's listening, thank you for listening and supporting us. I enjoy the little community we have. And we do have a Discord.
Yes. That's the one thing about 2021 I want to push is we do have a Discord. I will be sharing it frequently, so we have a Discord.
I think you should put the link in the bio for the Boss Rush Twitter account.
Yeah, I'm gonna make one of those link trees or like the Bitly links and pin it as a tweet there too. So yeah, I'm working on it.
We'll get there, but in the Well, thank you everybody for listening, and thank you, Corey. And until next time, we'll see you guys later.